So we're going to start this call. We're not going to unmute everybody yet because I have a question. I want to know on this call if there are people on this call who currently are guide dog handlers. Say aye.
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 Are there people on this call from guide dog schools? Say aye.
Aye.
All right. And are there people who are considering getting a guide dog and want to know more about the process? Say aye.
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 Nice little mix here. So, all right, Kevin, if you'll mute everybody except Maureen and Scott Lamar.
All right, I'm gonna mute and then I'll pull you all back out.
Yeah, he's going to mute and he's going to pull us out. Maureen, Jessica,
Yes.
Scott Lamar.
And then the co-host.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us for our, week 4 at Thursday, week 4, I think, of these National Federation of the Blind of Colorado Zoom calls. We will feature, obviously, how to get a guide dog and some tips and tricks when you got a guide dog. And then we'll talk a little about the COVID-19 situation where those of us who are guide dog handlers have to continually think about ways to make sure that we continue to stay sharp. So we'll do those things. Maureen is hosting tomorrow evening's call. Maureen, do you want to fill us in a little bit?
Yeah, tomorrow we are going to be making a chili dip, a really easy appetizer. I really love this recipe, not only because it's easy, but you can really do it a lot of different ways. It can be vegetarian, it can be vegan, it's soy-free, it's gluten-free. Then you can use your good old beefy chili if you want to. You know, you can, it's just very, very versatile, very, very simple. We're going to make it together, and then we're going to share our favorite mocktails and cocktails and just enjoy some fellowship together. So I hope everybody can get on.
Okay. Now, do you have that recipe in your head, or where can they get the recipe?
Yeah. So it's on, the recipe was on Colorado Talk, and I know it's in our blog that went out today. And it's really easy. You're just going to use 1 15-ounce can of any chili of your choice, a 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and about 2 cups of whatever kind of cheese you like. Shredded cheese is easiest, but you know, you could use whatever cheese you want, and that's all you need. And then, of course, I like to have some chips with my dip. So,
all right, so good. So those of you who don't have those ingredients in the house, I wouldn't suggest you use the hotline helpline just for those ingredients. But if you're planning to do groceries tomorrow with one of the volunteers, you might want to consider it. And you can, if you know of a blind person who needs a helping word or a helping hand, we've got the network volunteers that Maureen and Jessica have put together. You can call if you know someone or yourself or in a little bit of challenging circumstance. We'll do what we can to help you through it. And that number 303-778-1130, and the extension is 219. Also in the Blind Colorado that went up today, and you can also get that at NFBCO.org and go to the blog spot. And you can reach us for any of the details about these calls or the help hotline or some of the details. Always, you can send us a note. Always, we're happy to hear from you at what's our email address? Oh, assistance. That's it. Assistance at nfbco.org. And okay, so now we're going to get into the dog stuff. Jess, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Jess has nothing.
You want me to tell about a little bit about what's going on next?
Can you do that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm coming close.
Thank you.
I was lounging on the couch for my Zoom call. So next week we're going to have some exciting programming. Monday we're going to have Bonnie Barlow, who is a really fantastic person who does audio description. She's really an artist with it, and she's going to be doing some audio description as well as talking to us about audio description. On Tuesday we're going to have a call about trauma, what it is, what are the different types of trauma, how can you overcome trauma. A lot of people are having a really hard time with COVID-19 for a variety of reasons, and so if that's you, consider joining us for that call. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be having our regular workout Wednesday. On Thursday, we're going to learn how to make masks that you don't have to sew. And so when we put the announcement out, we're going to let you know what you need. But basically, it's just going to be like a piece of cloth, like the size of a bandana, and 2 shoestrings. And if you don't have new shoestrings, you can wash a pair of shoestrings out of a pair of sneakers that you have. And we'll teach you how to make a fantastic mask. And then we're going to have philosophy. So it's going to be great. And so you should join us also tomorrow night. at 8 o'clock, several people asked at 8 o'clock Mountain. Well, let's see, is it 8 o'clock Mountain Time? Yeah.
No, it's 7 Mountain
7
and
o'clock Mountain
8
Time. I get
Central. Yeah,
confused.
I know.
7 Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 6
Yeah.
o'clock Central Time. So several people had asked for a call, to really have a safe space to kind of open up about what you might be struggling with for COVID-19. And so it is called Quarantine Connect. And we have Jimmy Bang, who has a private practice in Tennessee, who is going to be facilitating the call. And I think it'll be really great. And so we encourage everyone to get onto that call. The information is on Facebook, and it did go out on Colorado Talk, but it is not the same call-in information as this particular line. So
Okay.
you will want to look for that email to find that information.
Okay, great. And again, if you can't track it down, send us an email, assistance@nfbco.org, because it is not going to be using this Zoom room. Scott, do you have anything real quick?
Just want to welcome everybody and thank all the dogs out there.
Yeah, great. I appreciated Mocha's column in today's NFBCO Blind Coloradan. Scott has a pet dog, and so rumors that he has a dog, it's only a pet dog. So I appreciated Mocha's contribution. Thanks, Scott. Well, let's talk a little about guide dog stuff. I'd like to have the folks who are representing the schools, if you want to raise your hand, I want to make sure that you are unmuted. And what I want to do is just recognize, I guess, Fidelco first. Thoughts. Jennifer is here, and so is Laura. And if you guys want to just give us your thoughts on the process of getting a guide dog, just take a few minutes and say, gosh, should I get a guide dog? And if I did, how would I go about it? And how would I leverage a relationship with Fidelco?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. So are you specifically talking about now during this COVID time, or are you just talking about in
just
general?
in general.
normal times?
We'll get to COVID in a little bit,
Okay.
but just in general, I'm a guy, I'm considering getting a dog. Take it from here.
Okay. Well, I can start, but Laura, by all means, jump right in. First of all, I'm just going to say that my title at Fidelco is a trainer instructor. So I do go out and do personal interviews, which is part of our process. But the person that, of course, Kevin's very familiar with, that would initially field calls is Tara, and she is our admissions coordinator. So if somebody were to be interested, they kind of call her. They could look at our website, usually directed to give her a call. And she kind of asks a few preliminary questions to see whether or not you would, number one, you would qualify, and number two, if it's something you have thought about a lot, or and also maybe a little bit of the ins and outs of our school, which uses exclusively German Shepherds. So there are quite a few criteria that someone would have to meet. I'm not sure how much time you want me to take on that, but
do a little bit of the criteria just to keep us started here.
Okay, well, one of the more obvious ones is that you do have to be legally blind, and we do need documentation of that. Sounds funny, but you'd be surprised at how many people do look into trying to receive a dog, and they're actually not legally blind. They have to be an independent traveler. So we need to have documentation of orientation and mobility training. And you need to verbally tell us, and also we kind of check it out more on a personal interview. But you need to have at least 3 routes that you do. I'm not sure what Tara is telling people the length should be now. But probably, 20 minutes minimum that somebody would do a couple of times a day.
Yep.
And they need to have a variety of different routes, not just one route that I do, 7 days a week type of thing. So those are the main ones. We do go out and do a personal interview. And that is so that we can take a look at a person's preferred pace in walking, so that if you are accepted for a guide dog, we can find one that's a suitable match, because they're, it's not one size fits all. You have some dogs that like to move out quicker and some that are a little bit on the slower side, just sometimes based on size. If you have a 90-pound taller male, he's probably going to move a little quicker than, a 55-pound female. Although that's not always the case. So we want to match lifestyle. We want to take a look at and see what conditions the dog will be working under, whether it's a dog that's expected to lie quietly under an office desk all day, or whether it's, a situation what may be a little bit more chaotic of a lifestyle at home with multiple dogs or children or other pets or what have you in the house. We also want to make sure it's a safe environment for the dog. We definitely take our dogs seriously. We're not going to put them into an environment which we feel is unsafe for them. And by that, I mean, if there are loose dogs all throughout the neighborhood that seem to pose a threat to a working team, or maybe it's a household that there are hazards around the house. We don't put a dog into a smoking home. That's for the dog's health as well. And so a variety of reasons that we would do that personal interview, and just to make sure that one person says, okay, I really walk fast and I walk 6 miles a day. Okay, well, show me your example of fast, because what your impression of fast might be a little bit different than mine, or maybe not. And just show me that you do, in fact, you are in fact an independent traveler and you do have multiple routes. Those are the things that come to mind at
I
first.
can testify, and actually quite a few people on this call. Marianne, you're unmuted. I want you to say a thing in a minute for me. Thank you. But I just want to let you know you're unmuted. But I think we have a lot of Fidelco people all of a sudden in Colorado, and I think folks on this call can testify that you can't just say that I walk 6 miles and do it in 15 minutes. You have to be able to do it, and they do a wonderful job of matching those dogs, I think. Marianne, you're on this call.
Yes, sir.
How many guide dogs have you had?
6.
And why did you get a guide dog?
Well, the first time I got a guide dog, I was 17, and I thought that I was a horrible cane traveler. I didn't realize until I had a dog that I actually was a pretty good cane traveler. I was very self-conscious about travel and so on.
You were in New York, right, Marianne? New York City.
I was in upstate New York. I was a kid in high school.
Okay.
And when I first got a dog, I loved dogs. I loved the ideas of dogs and so on. And I just felt like I would get around better with a dog than I did with a cane. Because when you're a kid, kids are cruel. And I was one of those kids with self-esteem issues. And the minute my cane touched something or somebody or whatever, I felt horrible about it. I got over that as an adult, I assure you. And now I don't care what my cane touches as long as it's appropriate. And I do use a guide dog now. As a matter of fact, he's laying on the floor trying to shove his bone at me. But that was the reason I went the first time around. I kept on going back because I did find out that guide dog use was fabulous. There were pros. There certainly are pros and cons of guide dog use, as they are of cane use. And after 5 of my dogs, I retired my last one and didn't have a dog for 9 years. And then I went back a year and a half ago and got my 6th dog. And the reason that I put on my application, the biggest one that I really put on my application, was that I was tired of the obstacles in my way, in my life. And it was mainly, guide dogs are the greatest thing in the world for getting around all the stuff that you just don't want to find with your cane or any other way.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's
So
why I went back.
That's wonderful. That's one of the things I've grown to love about having a guide dog. Okay. So thank you. I've seen you travel like the wind, whether you had a dog or whether you had a cane. It's all about the feeling of independence, the Federation philosophy, and using whatever tool works for you at that time. Let's see, who do we have from, we have another guide dog school or two on this call, and I'd like to hear any perspective that they might want to add at this point. I think Melissa Smith might be on the call. Oh, Jake is on from Guide Dogs.
Yeah, hi everybody.
Yeah. Hi, why don't you introduce yourself to the crowd? Paul Sandoval and I know you, but the rest of the folks may not. So go ahead and introduce yourself and then give us a little of your perspective.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Jake Cook. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist at Guide Dogs for the Blind. I've been handling guide dogs personally since 2008, and have been working for Guide Dogs for the Blind for the past 7.5 years. My role covers community outreach, potential applicant and blindness professional continuing education, philanthropy work, as well as admissions, up to the phone consultation part of the application process. So do a lot of everything, it seems like. Just kind of quickly, I'll go over Guide Dogs for the Blind's admissions criteria for you. So we do require previous orientation and mobility experience, either through agency or if you've gotten it at school, something like that. If you can't get orientation and mobility training, we do have something called the Orientation and Mobility Immersion Program. This is a free 6-day program. It provides 25 hours of instruction. And the goal of the program is to bridge the skills gap between what you might have. Maybe it's 2 hours or 5 hours of instruction. Maybe it's no instruction. Maybe it's self-taught. So bridging the gap between what you have and what you need to be successful with a guide dog. It's not required for everybody to go through that program, but it's another option to offset the shortage of orientation and mobility services in this community. And we believe if we're going to ask you, our applicants, to have orientation and mobility experience, we also want to make sure that we're offering them an opportunity through our school to get that training. So orientation and mobility experience, legal blindness, and then also, as the folks from Fidelco said, and a warm welcome to my fellow colleagues, by the way, 3 independently traveled destination routes. Now, occasionally we'll have somebody that might be traveling 2 routes that are destinations and have a long exercise loop, a couple miles in length or something like that. And we would accept that as a route as well. You don't have to be employed to have a guide dog. We will ask you during the interview, the phone interview, are you financially comfortable with taking on the responsibility of a guide dog? We estimate that cost to be around $75 per month. And that includes food, toys, other accessories, things like that. We have a veterinary financial assistance program on folks that need it. It's an as-needed program. So that's a little bit about the overview of Guide Dogs for the Blind. We have a 2-week training program. We have a suite of follow-up services that you can choose to take advantage of or not, your choice, but they are there for you if you'd like. Do you want me to continue, Kevin, or is there something more?
Hang on just a second. I'm going to go ahead and get Paul Sandoval in here. You're going to be unmuted now, Paul. Paul is, you're a Guide Dogs graduate, right?
Absolutely.
And you also serve on the board of our Colorado Association of Guide Dog Users and the National Association of Guide Dog Users. This do double duties as all of that stuff. Plus, we want to know, how is Yonkers?
He's doing really good, and that I'm glad you're letting me bring this up. So, probably one of the big deciding factors for many graduates who go to GDB is the veterinarian program. And oh my gosh, my dog got into something, I don't know when. He got sick last Wednesday, started throwing up. Long story short, he ended up having surgery on Friday. I was told by GDB that they would help me through this whole problem. They said, don't worry about it, we'll help you take care of it. So at this time right now, that means so much to my family. I don't know that all schools do that. I know that most don't. And it's just a really big deal. It's made a big deal for my family. And I just want to say thank you to GDB for that program. So,
well, and clearly it's one of the schools like Fidelco, with a huge, great reputation. So
oh, yeah.
I wanted you to have the opportunity to public thank them. And that also lets us talk globally about this follow-on services. We heard, I don't know that Fidelco, talk about any follow-on services that well, first of all, Fidelco, do you own the dog when you graduate from the school?
So you have the opportunity to retain ownership, or you can opt to have us retain ownership. The responsibility is the same to the dog.
Okay. So guide dogs, own the dog or don't own the dog?
Good question. Similar. So after 1 year of service, you are welcome to apply for ownership. It doesn't change any of the features or services that you get. I do just want to talk about what the reason behind that is, just real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Because a lot of people, I think, get this confused, unfortunately. So the reason that Guide Dogs for the Blind has an ownership policy doesn't have anything to do with the graduate's ability to handle the dog. And a lot of people accuse us of that. The reason that we have ownership is if for some reason within that first year, if something doesn't work out, if we had to do a dog switch, if the person wasn't happy with the dog, if something happened, we'd like to have the opportunity to bring the dog back and maybe place it either with another client if it's within a year, or put it into another type of service where the dog maybe is more successful. So I just want to clarify that it's really, we have full confidence in our graduates' ability to work their dogs. We just also want to have the opportunity to put the dog in the best job possible.
Absolutely. I notice in the chat, Kev tells me Caradwin, hi Caradwin, says Leader Dog has, you own, after a year, you own the dog. Fidelco, I think we own our dogs. I don't know. If I'd been given that opportunity after a year, after only 1 year, I might have sent Onyx back at that point. I don't know. But I don't know the ownership with Fidelco. Did I miss that? That's right. That's what she said. Yeah. Okay. So we're good to go there. What other guide dog schools do we have on the, I think is Melissa Smith was going to be here with, she does a lot of work with Guiding Eyes.
You can raise your hand, which is *9 on the phone, dial-in phone. Under the app, it's under More. And on the computer, it's Alt-Y. Here we go. All right. Is this Melissa?
This is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Right.
Melissa also is kind enough to serve on our Colorado Association of Guide Dog Users Board of Directors and helps us set up our petting booth fundraiser, the kissing booth, and all the stuff that she does for our affiliate. And tell us briefly about yourself and your thoughts around all of this.
So I've been in the guide dog industry since since '89, if you count my puppy raising years, but I'm currently working with Guiding Eyes as a regional field rep. So I'm based here in Denver, but I serve all of our graduates throughout the Northwest states. And, you know, I can mirror, I'm not going to repeat everything that Guide Dogs and Fidelco said, but, you know, tons of similarities. I think some of the highlights, we do provide veterinary care for our graduates because we want to keep our dogs working as, you know, healthy as possible for as long as possible. So we do support our grads. And, you know, the other, I think, unique thing that our program is doing right now is the running guide program, which is certainly controversial. And I think a lot of the other guide dog schools are kind of watching to see how it goes. But it has been really exciting. And, you know, I think the graduates that are the applicants who are applying are certainly seeking it, you know, purposefully because they are very active and they want to be able to have the freedom to run without always having to find a friend to take them out. So that's been a really cool program that so far has been very successful.
Now yours is a residential, you're a residential program?
We do both. So primarily, you know, the quickest way to get a guide dog is certainly to come into our dormitories. But we do probably on average about 30 home trainings per year. And certainly with COVID, we're going to be shifting to that in high gear as soon as we can get back out on the ground.
What, you got to unload some dogs real quick or?
We're going to have a backlog. People are getting antsy. They want their dogs.
Food bill getting a little high, the run on plastic bags getting a little tough for you guys.
Lots of poop.
Yeah, lots of poop. Yeah. So I think the first time I had the pleasure of knowing you, you may have seen me around, but I think first time I had a pleasure of getting to know you is not long after I got Onyx. You came up to me and said, "I can do these nails for you," and you trimmed her nails, and I'm thinking, who is that man? What the heck? And what a joy it has been to have your energy on our team.
Yes, toenails are my pet peeve. I'm always after toenails.
I know they are mine too, but I can't get anybody to do it. The other thing about the running, you know, in this house, in these offices, where Jessica Beecham and Kevin Kovacs and I reside, we both have Fidelco dogs, Prada and Onyx, and they weren't trained to run, but let me tell you what, these girls do some running because we work out here. So, okay, anything else, Melissa, that you wanted to chime in at this point?
Nope, I think that's good for now.
Okay, we'll probably circle back to you because I want to talk a little about keeping our dogs well during COVID. And I also think we have, who else do we have, Kevin Kovacs?
We have phone number 8025, ending in 8025.
Hello. 8025, you're unmuted.
And then Rachel P.
Oh, hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Yeah, what you got for me?
So if you wanted to, I graduated from Leader Dogs. I'm from Michigan, and I can talk a little bit about that if you wanted me to. I've done a lot of programs and stuff through them.
I want you to do 60 seconds on your experience with Leader Dog, starting now. Go. Come on. Are you going to do it? No, am I intimidating? I want to know from
it was overall it was overall a good experience.
Good.
Thank you.
No, I'm happy to have you circle back. If you want to talk a little more about it, I didn't mean to be.
Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. So it was a really good experience overall. They offer a lot of good programs. They offer a mobility program as well, which I've been through. And the thing I liked about them mainly was that their trainers are really friendly, and they're always they always get really back to you pretty fast if you have a question.
Okay.
And they also send people out to help you in areas around if you need help. And I have a friend in Utah who they've sent somebody out to help her. So.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. You did a nice job. I think you were under 60 seconds, actually. And I think schools in general, I think it's fair to say that the schools are pretty, one, competitive, and also they communicate with one another. I also think some are better than others, but that's for the individual consumer. This is why I think it's important to have the National Federation of the Blind, National Association of Guide Dog Users, et cetera, to network and share ideas. There are a couple of schools, frankly, that have had a bad reputation since I was in high school, which is way back last century. And so that doesn't mean that they're bad schools. They just continue to be the ones that are sort of had a bad rep over the years. I'm not going to mention any names, and there's nobody on this call. Now, Fidelco is not a program that you go to. They come and do the community placement, which, as she said, is an option under at Guiding Eyes as well. Guide Dogs, you guys don't have a community placement option, or do you?
So yeah, we do have a in-home training option. Most of our trainings are done at residential style training program in both San Rafael, California, and Boring, Oregon, of all places. We also, though, do about 30 in-home trainings a year as opposed to our 275 trainings a year. Now, again, we're pushing COVID-19 off to the side for a sec. Just normal standard metrics is what I'm giving you right now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we will do an in-home training. There has to be a specific reason or an extenuating circumstance that would prevent somebody from coming to class. Could be like somebody has medical challenges, single parent, things along that line that would prevent them from coming to class. And we handle that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And let's see, who else do we have that might have comments representing Guide Dog School or the industry in general?
Ellie.
Ellie's here. How you doing?
Hey guys, it's Ellie Carlson. Just wanted to let you know I'm here and available as a freelance guide dog mobility instructor and O&M instructor, which means I get to share information without the bias of any one particular school. I have experience with several schools, have contracted with them, raised puppies for them, done visits for them. Happy to talk shop with anyone at any time, and I think I'm in a really unique position to be able to do that. And so when folks have questions about what school should I apply to, comparing one to another, knowing the matrix of just all the schools at a glance. That's something that I'm passionate about, and it's like I say, applying to a college or a university where you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, and getting the right fit for your ongoing relationship with that school is super important. So happy to talk shop on that anytime.
I want to say that if you guys who are on here are kind of, should I get a guide dog or shouldn't I? What school should I go to? all of those kinds of questions. Ellie is a tremendous resource. Let me also say, for those of us who already have guide dogs, guide dog trainers at school, if you need to hold your ears for the next 20 seconds, I don't know what the rules are and I don't mostly care. But if somebody needs a little help with a little extra training or ideas or work, or even someone who can just visually look at what you're doing and offer you some feedback, Ellie is your teacher. She has helped countless people around the country, but also in Colorado. And she shares that National Federation of the Blind independent, make it look good, take care of your animal, get out there and look like you know what you're doing, be smooth. She's really good. And so I think she's an incredible resource. And she knows I think that because she's helped me a lot.
Here, here.
Yeah, and Jessica's over saying here, here. Okay, other perspective from schools, things that we may have missed. Oh, okay, so someone put their hand down. Okay, let's just run through, and we'll leave the schools a second, but we're gonna move to the upside and downside of getting a dog. But I wanna see if there's any, let's see, do all the schools do shepherds or just a couple schools do shepherds nowadays?
Guiding Eyes does.
Okay, Guiding Eyes, and you guys do different, Guiding Eyes and other dogs, right?
Primarily labs, but we do have
Primarily
shepherds.
labs, but you do some shepherds. Fidelco, that's all you do is shepherds.
Yep, just shepherds.
Yep, and a hell of a job of it, and that's why I went there. Let's see, guide dogs.
Yeah, our breeds are Labrador Retrievers, Golden Retrievers, and a Labrador Golden Retriever crossbreed.
Nice.
And Caradorn says Leader Dogs doesn't do shepherds.
Leader dog doesn't do shepherds. Okay. Did we cover the schools that are with us?
Yep.
Okay. So, and it's interesting. I went to. Well, let me just do a real quick. We heard why Marianne got a guide dog, and I think that's the reason a lot of young adults or newly blinded people get guide dogs. Either they're embarrassed about their cane travel skills, or they don't feel comfortable or confident using a cane. A lot of people on this call would know my story, which a lot of people have interest in. And I wanted nothing to do with guide dogs. My parents always said that would make you a blind person. I'm like, hey, mom and dad, I don't know if you recognize the fact that I run into stuff all the time. And the School for the Blind gave me this here cane. I am a blind person. But I got it in my mind earlier that no, the guide dog that's going to be cumbersome. It's embarrassing, socially unacceptable. They poop. I wanted nothing to do with it. And I became a good cane traveler. Went to this Colorado Center for the Blind, yay, and traveled great all my life until about 10 years ago. And I started traveling less because I had employees. I was very lucky. I had a sighted wife. I started losing a little confidence because the less you out working your skill, no matter what it is, you're going to lose confidence in that skill. And then I started working with Jessica, and she had a Fidelco guide dog named Perfect Pippin. And he was pretty perfect. And I saw the way they worked, and I saw Pippin, and I fell in love with Pippin. And I thought, well, hell, I could try this, I guess. And I did it sort of very cautiously. Man, do I really want to be led around by a dog? And how are the people going to treat? I don't know. And it was tough. Once I decided to do it, I decided I wanted to do Fidelco. I needed community placement. There's no way at 62 I was going to go to a campus. And by the way, a lot of people that age would like those programs. They enjoy that. That's a good reason some people like to pick a school based on the fact that they can do it independent of family and get their legs centered. And then I didn't want to do that. I needed to work. I needed to do my federation work. So I went through the Fidelco process as was described by our colleagues from Fidelco. And my training and adjustment was hard. It was hard. It was maybe one of the hardest I've even ever heard about. And I think even some of my colleagues will say, man, Kev, this was tough for you. And I'm happy to visit with folks offline about the process. But I will tell you, after 1 year, it's the best, maybe the best thing, other than being married to my wife, Bridget, it's probably the best decision I've ever made. I find moving through life and moving through society with a guide dog that I have worked with and had trained by Fidelco, and I get to nurture and care for, and we develop this team. It's almost it becomes not just a travel tool or not just a buddy. She's both of those things. But there's also this magic that I always used to poo-poo. I'd see these videos That was the first time the dog kissed my face. I realized it was a loving bond forever. And now what I'll tell you is if they lick your face, it just means they're hungry. Okay, that's the deal. Let's not get carried away with the lovey-dovey. On the other hand, when you work with a dog as a team, it becomes almost singular. You really can read the harness and the leash and the head position and the movement. And she gets to the point where she can tell what I want and what the expectations are. And it really becomes, I don't want to be overly romantic, but it becomes a beautiful thing for some of us. So I wanted to offer that observation. And then I want to open it up for any comments or questions about maybe what I've just said, comments or questions from anyone at this point. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. One thing about guide dog folks, we love to share our stories. We love to talk about our dogs. We love to, well, you know, the other day I was at a light and my goofy dog decided to, you know, we love to do that. All right, Kev.
If you want to raise your hand, it's *9 on the dial-in, under more on the iPhone app, and Alt-Y on the Windows computer. We have somebody under iPhone 2.
iPhone 2?
This is Jerry Leary.
Hey, Jerry Leary, there you are.
Hey, I wanted to say, talk just a second about one thing that no one has brought up yet. One of the reasons I got a guide dog is because in my mid-40s, I had a good blind friend who was probably one of the worst cane users I ever knew. and I was pretty damn good at it, so we would always do a lot together. We went to grade school and high school together and that kind of thing. We were good buddies. And he came home with a guide dog, and not only did I have trouble keeping up with them, but the other thing that I realized is that wherever that dog went, if he marked that place, he could move away from it blocks and say, let's find the so-and-so, and that dog would take him right back to it. He could leave, like if we traveled someplace to a convention or whatever, he could leave a hotel room, go out, find a place to relieve his dog, and ask his dog to take him back to the room, and he would.
Yep.
And when I started hanging around with other guide dog users and I was finding things like they would mark trash cans, they would mark benches, they would mark ticket machines at subway stations and things like that. And I thought to myself, now this is as good as your best pal. When you can go ask a dog to go find the tickets, or find the ATM, or find the this or the that, and
now, Jerry, when you say market, what they pee on it? What are you talking about? What do they do here?
No, you take you work with your guide dog in the harness, and you walk them to the object or the place that you want to mark, and you say, this is this is the house, this is the stairway, this is the trash can. And then you walk away from it a little bit, and you ask your dog to find it.
There you go. Yep.
And
all right, good. So I absolutely agree with that 100%, and you're absolutely on target. I don't do that, and I don't know a lot of people that do, but I know some do. I'm very lucky. Onyx does have great, I'm sure a lot of us do. I can tell you that I was over a mile away from the house a year ago and got called by 911 operator and my wife. I had to be rushed to the hospital, so I needed to get home, and Onyx and I ran home. I didn't give her one instruction. Probably shouldn't have told trainers that either. I didn't say anything, and we just ran a fairly circuitous route home. And so these dogs will do some special stuff, and some of them different than others, some of them better and worse, depending on what their skill set is. But Jerry, you're absolutely right. We have someone else who wants to comment. Who do you got, Garrett?
Phone number.
Maureen, I think Maureen, are you unmuted, Maureen?
Yeah, she would now.
Oh, I thought Maureen.
3203.
3203 is next.
It's Melissa. Hello, everyone.
Melissa Green, former president of Colorado.
Galactic.
Go ahead.
I had an experience a few weeks ago, walking with my dog, and when I was walking with her, all of a sudden I just teared up because, like you said, Kevin, it's a singular. We are a team, and my dog is retiring soon. Now that COVID is here, we have to wait longer for a dog. I went to Guide Dog Foundation, and it was a good experience for me. And I just, that day, we got to the corners across the street, and I was like, yeah, I really like this. Because I had said, I'm going to get one dog and one dog only. Well, I guess I can change my mind, right?
Yeah, you can.
But it is a beautiful thing.
It can
And,
be. It absolutely can.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for the service you're giving our organization and NFB. Maureen always has perspective I learned from. Maureen?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I have been with Riley now for 2 years. It was 2 years on St. Patty's Day. And I got Riley from Guide Dog Foundation. Ellie was actually my fabulous trainer. And I was using a cane for a very long time. And I got a guide dog, for kind of a unique reason, but I think it's something that a lot of people run into just in different ways. I developed another disability. And after brain surgery, I lost the ability to use my right hand, and that was my cane hand, and it really affected my cane travel a lot. I also get a lot of dizziness because of having multiple brain surgeries, and I still have multiple brain tumors. And getting a guide dog was just just the most amazing thing that I could have done to make it so that I am still able to travel as independently as I was with a cane, because my travel was really severely affected. Now, when I experience dizziness a lot, and I can become disoriented, and I can tell Riley, find the counter, find the couch, find the door. And those types of skills that a dog has, they're just unbeatable, and it's gotten me out of a lot of situations where I've become disoriented. Like Jerry was actually saying with marking things, or that how he described it, I actually do that with Riley. And just this past semester, I had to go to a certain location after a class, attending college that was like 6 paths going a ton of different directions. And I found a tree, with the help of someone my first or second day. And then I, showed Riley that tree, and every day after class, he was able to go out, walk all these paths, find that tree, and I could call a ride and get home. And those are things I just wasn't able to do with my cane anymore. And so I just wanted to point that out, because I think a lot of times people do run into different circumstances in their life that you may not think of a dog, but that a dog can really be of a great assistance.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because I know the schools will work with people with, I say secondary disabilities, but additional disabilities, whatever it is. And I think all schools will, to the extent that they have the ability, capacity, and depending on the disability, I think help. Kevin over here to my left, who's our producer, engineer, all around great guy, Kevin Kovacs, is in a wheelchair, and he had for a decade Shotgun, who was his service dog. Like I said, we're big on dogs in this house, and up until 4 years ago, I never had a pet in my life, so it's crazy. Who's next? Thank you, Maureen.
This is Jay. Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about, or kind of maybe help people who are new to this guide dog lifestyle kind of understand what a little bit what we're talking about when we're talking about words like marking and finding and showing the dog. So basically, just real quick, the dogs can be taught in a variety of ways to find a number of objects that are consistently located or look the same or similar. There are a variety of ways to do that. So essentially, the dogs have the ability to learn to find a very localized object. One of the terms that's out there that's used is it's called targeting. So basically, the dog is taught early on in training to find things like a bus stop pole or the down curb or something like that. And there are a variety of training tactics. We don't have to get into all those, but just so people understand, it's not like you go to guide dog school and an instructor says, okay, here are these 5 objects that we've taught your dog to find. It's a little bit more like we teach you, and again, I'm kind of speaking from Guide Dogs for the Blind's perspective, but I think a lot of schools run along similar lines. We teach you how to customize the dog's training whether it's using the food and clicker, back chaining, patterning, things like that. So just hopefully that helps people understand that though the dogs can find something, it's not like, okay, I get home, I'm going to go to my subway station and bam, my dog's going to find the ticket machine.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. And we'll get perspective from either Fidelco or Melissa or Ellie on that in terms of finding things or targeting. I can tell you with Onyx, let me put it this way. So I don't do a lot of targeting training with her, but I'll tell you, if I've ever been anywhere, I better not want to hide it. I told Jessica when we were working in California a couple of years ago, I said, oh no, I never go to that chili dog stand. I always skip that one. Man, we were walking by it. Onyx was ripping my hand off to get to that chili dog stand. And I'm like, girl, come on. You know, we've never been there, babe. Any conversation that the schools have about training and targeting and the like.
Laura, why don't you jump in on this one?
Hey, Laura, why don't you jump in on this, Laura?
I don't have a ton to add. I think that they did a nice job describing it. But yeah, I mean, you can have, we teach the client how to teach targeting. So for instance, if you needed to be able to find a trash can because you need to be able to relieve the dog and then find the trash can, we show you on placement how to go about teaching that specific behavior. Because we are in community placement, we have the opportunity to basically help you to figure out how to target specific things in your environment.
Yeah.
Laura, I don't know if you feel like elaborating on a recent placement you did how you taught the dog to target a podium in the middle of a stage.
Yeah, so I just did a placement with one of our clients who does a lot of public speaking in front of like 1,500 people. And we had to teach on the fly the dog to be able to target the podium when he got on stage and not avoid it, because the dog generally is taught to avoid obstacles. So we, from the beginning, with that placement, we flew out to Vegas and Salt Lake, and we taught the dog by back chaining to find the podium on stage with 1,400 people clapping. So that was an extreme example, but we can also find light poles and trash cans.
That is so great. And those are the kinds of things guide dogs can do. My guide dog naturally, Onyx, the Wonder Shepherd from Fidelco, automatically goes to the podium because she just assumes that's where I'm going to be before the day is over. So now it's hard for me to get her to say, no, we're not talking today. Sit back here, shush down. Comments. I want to know, lightning round from folks, why shouldn't I get a dog? What are the real true downsides from our guide dog handlers and our school folks? If you have any thoughts, I mean, we're all talking about it's the best thing since sliced bread, but you know, it can be a life in the fast lane or maybe pain in the tuchus. So what are the downsides of having these damn dogs around all the time, huh?
Ellie, you can unmute yourself.
Ellie, there you go, Ellie.
They are furry little heartbreakers. Whether they might not work out, they will disappoint you, and at some point they're going to die and you're going to be crushed. And the emotional attachment is, oh, it's incredible, but good and bad. I can't handle the emotional connection.
Yeah, that's hey Ellie, thanks for bringing me down, man. Really appreciated that. They shed. Shepherd's probably worse than most, I guess. But they are shedders. If you don't like dog hair, it's a lot of work. You got to groom it all the time. Sometimes they might shed or their nails scratch something at a rich neighbor's business party. So there's complications. You got to clean up after the dog if you don't ever want to do that. I always used to think, what's that?
They get sick as well. Canes don't get sick.
Yep. They get sick. Yep. Yeah.
I would say, this is Jake, I would say two things. One is the increased public attention, both negative and positive, mostly positive, but you're going to get a few odd comments now and again. And then the other is these dogs like to go. They like to get out and travel. And so if you're the type of traveler that enjoys, hey, I just call an Uber, I walk 10 feet from my front of my apartment to the car, I get in, I get dropped off 10 feet in front of the destination, that's perfectly acceptable way to travel if you like it. It might not be so conducive for having a guide dog who enjoys going up curb to down curb, targeting things, left, right, all sort of things. So keep that in mind if
Yep.
you don't enjoy that.
Very good. And I love the fact public attention. Some of it can be good and some of it, I mean, you mentioned rideshare. We have our National Federation of the Blind rideshare initiative. And that's a problem. Some people are like, my son Nijat, he's blind. And he sees the way I work with Onyx. I said, Onyx, you know, Nijat, you should consider getting a guide dog. I don't want to fool with that Uber Lyft stuff. That can be embarrassing, a headache, a hassle, and delay, and you'll miss a flight like Jessica Beecham did once. Because of the damn dog. All right, Marianne. Marianne?
I'm just going to say 2 words, barf and diarrhea.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's as brief I've ever seen me or Marianne. I used to think I'd be mortified, by the way, if a dog had an accident in a public place. And in the first 18 months, I think Onyx had 3, whether it was my fault, her fault, or she just had to go. Little Freudian slip there. It was my fault or her fault, or she just had to go. In an airport, I wasn't mortified at all. People have accidents. It happens. Deal with it. Clean it up. My favorite little story is it was 5 o'clock at the Baltimore airport. Coming around the corner, I felt her body actually dip and shake, and I thought, uh-oh, what are you doing? So by this time, I was learning the dog cues and was very sensitive to them. And I reached down, and there was her back in the poop position. I thought, oh, no. And the lady walks around the corner, and she says, your dog done shit. So we cleaned it up and went on our merry way. Other comments about reasons not to get a guide dog. They are expensive, not totally expensive. You're going to have vet bills if you're not with a school that covers all those things. And you're going to have to feed the mongrels and groom them regularly. Other comments about why a guide dog may not be a best decision.
I just had one thing to add. I think it was another instructor from a different school was saying, you know, the dogs like to get out and walk, but especially with the shepherds, and I may be a little biased because that's all I've experienced with as guide dogs, but you can't say for too many days in a row, oh, it's too cold, it's too rainy, it's too snowy, it's too windy. You can't just, whereas a cane, you could sit on the couch if you wanted to, but for guide dogs, and especially for shepherds, but probably for all breeds, they need that regular work. They're going to get sloppy. They're going to have behavior problems in the house. They need that consistency. So you have to make that commitment ahead of time, really depend, regardless of the weather, to get them out every day.
Absolutely. If I don't work the girl one way or another, if it's extra obedience or something, she's not happy. She doesn't do anything destructive, but you can tell on the 3rd day, she is really, you can just tell. She just wants to work. She wants to go, go, go. Other comments? Who else did we have, Kev? Grace. Grace? As you can see or hear. Well, it's interesting. Every time we do this 5 o'clock call, Kevin and Jessica and I have decided that the dogs think that's playtime. I don't know why, but Prada and Onyx are just crazy when we're on this call. What happened to Grace? Did we get Grace?
Grace, you there still?
Can you hear me?
We can now, hon. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, great. I'm a mobility instructor in New York City, and you know, time to time I have clients who are really on the fence about getting dogs, and they're on very tight budgets. And let's say if I did encourage them to apply to the schools that do provide a little more vet support and food support, barring that, are there any other day-to-day expenses or week-to-week, month-to-month expenses that would be extraordinary for clients that are on a very tight budget or a very strict budget?
Folks at the schools want to talk about that, or Ellie or Melissa or whoever?
I'll go. This is Jake.
Yep, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, so Guide Dogs for the Blind does provide a veterinary financial assistance program. So that means that it's an as-needed program. So if you need some of the costs associated with vet care covered, great. If you need them all covered, great. It includes a stipend for vaccines, booster shots, physical exam, things like that. We provide flea and heartworm preventative for the lifetime of the partnership. So outside of that, the client is really just responsible for the dog's food, maybe some toys and other incidentals. I would recommend, if possible, of course, when dogs get sick, they get sick on a weekend, right? When the school is closed.
Right.
Because the way we do it is we authorize the transaction. So the client calls the school, talk to someone in the VFA program, we authorize it, no big deal. But if it's a Sunday morning or something, we just tell them, take the dog to the vet. And that's where, if someone can have a small savings for this sort of thing, that's great. Obviously, that's not always possible. Something like a credit card, they put it on a credit card and get back to us the next day and pay it back off. There's other ways, just like any other type of emergency financial planning that you would do for any other challenge. But no, outside of food, toys, other accessories that a person might want, rain jackets, something like that, there's really not a lot that they would necessarily need to pay for.
Okay.
And you represent which school again?
Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Ellie?
You're welcome.
You bet. Thank you. Ellie?
Sure, this is Ellie speaking. I know that most clients, if they have the space for it, consumers, having a crate or a kennel for your dog indoors is a huge peace of mind for folks, just to know that dog is in a safe space. It's not getting into something. I can have my hands free to do cooking, showering, whatever it is, or leave them behind if they are going out to someplace where it's not appropriate or
lay down.
Want to do, I encourage people to put once a month on their calendar, hey, this is going to be my cane day, and give the dog a break and maintain your cane skills so you don't lose them. So having a crate at home would be an expense. Sometimes they're available through different places at a cheaper cost, but I would put a crate into anybody's budget. And in general, I'm advising folks who are considering getting a guide dog to factor in about $150 per month. It's not always going to be $150, but there's months where it's going to be $20 and months where it's going to be $600. So
I think that agrees. Jessica and I were talking about before this call. We have two healthy German Shepherds, but they've both had some vets, an ear infection here and there, what have you. And that's what we sort of figured in the first few years of these dogs is $150 a month pretty much would cover it without any, unless there's any catastrophic kinds of things. Other comments about the sort of additional over and above expenses? If not, we'll go ahead.
Just something to think about. This is Laura from Fidelco. Is also when your guide dog is retiring, if you're choosing to keep the dog. Like I know my dad just got his second dog. He kept his first, and that dog is now in acupuncture and physical therapy and laser therapy and all sorts of stuff because it's got the general ailments that an old dog has. So those costs add up very, very quickly and can be $500 to $1,000 a month depending on what your conditions your dog has as they get older.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I can't even imagine, thank you. I can't even imagine Onyx going anywhere, but I also know that there are folks in various circumstances where they can't keep the dog if the dog is retired for a variety of reasons. And so I know that the schools will help with placements, either back with puppy raisers or with Uncle Bill or somewhere. Who's next that wants to comment?
Marianne.
Oh, Marianne. Marianne.
Thanks. I was waiting. Thanks for being with us from New York City. For one thing, in New York City, I believe Animal Medical Center is still doing complimentary vet care for guide dogs, but it is up in the East 60s. And if you live like I did out in Brooklyn, there are times you might not be paying the vet bill, but you need to pay the car service or something to get all the way to the vet because the dog isn't going to get there. So that's a reality in New York City, or at least it was when I was living there, that guide dogs did get free care from Animal Medical and medicines and so on and so forth. As far as I know, that is still the case there, so that might help.
Yes.
Your second point?
Well, and the other point too is that frankly, if you look at your budget, and I remember looking at it when I was young and poor and all that, if you really don't have at least $50 a month or more to put aside for a dog, you don't have business getting one.
I agree.
I hate to put it that plainly, but it's true.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, you have to take care of an animal. Thank you, Marianne. Who else, Kevin?
In the chat, Sebastian asks, how long or how many years will a person have a guide dog? One of you schools might want to answer that.
Schools?
I was just about to write an answer back. This is Jake again. Guide dogs, we estimate that to be on average 7 to 9 years. You're getting the dog at about 18 to 22 months of age. So add 7 to 9 years from that time. So you're looking at, between, 8.5 and 11 or so ish.
So that's a really good question, because I thought about that a lot. And, you know that sometimes they don't work out. Sometimes the bond doesn't work. Sometimes they don't want to work. Sometimes there's health issues. So you take all that into consideration. I look at the fact that Jessica had Pippin for, I think, 10 or 11 working years. And then I know people who, had to give it back after 6 months for a variety of reasons. But Ellie's right, man. The emotional attachment. If I had to give back Onyx, I don't know what I'd do. It'd be freaky. Who's next, Kev?
We got James Stokes.
James, Mr. Stokes, talk to me.
You can unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go.
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, James. Did you want to comment?
Hello. Hi. Yes, I'm sorry. My computer keeps telling me people are joining or unjoining the meeting.
You're here, brother. Forward, always forward.
Okay, sorry. So my name's Jim Stokes, and I've had a guide dog for 2 years. And to be honest, I was real hesitant to speak up, but I think there's a lot of pluses and minuses to having a guide dog. I mean, I love my dog, and he's great, and he's really helped me with getting around, and he's, the biggest thing is he's helped me to get outside more. I mean, I used to love to be outside, and then I lost my vision, and I hid inside all the time. So he's been great, and I love walking and moving and getting out, and he's been wonderful with that. But it's just that because I think and it's wonderful how everyone's has such positive experiences, and I've had really good experiences too. But it's also a ton of work, and my dog is constantly distracted by things, and it's like, well, that means that's more work for you, Jim, to try to get him to be less distracted, because it's like trying to get the dog to do things that are very unnatural for him, which is to be not distracted by things. And there's, I don't know, it's just, I think it's a huge decision to make, and bigger than maybe I realized. And not that I didn't get warnings about that. And I think the training that my dog has had and ongoing training has been wonderful, and tons of support and all that. But I just, I guess I just didn't realize, I just thought, oh, I'm going to get this great dog and I'll go to the training school. And I did that. And, but it's just ongoing work all the time. And I just, and it's just, it's something you really need to think about. And my dog sort of treats me like I'm the boss, which is good and bad, I guess. And
You don't know,
so I don't feel like we're like this perfect connection. But I do love them, and I know, it's because I like dogs and all that. But it's very, very different than having a pet dog, because I've been around pet dogs my whole life. And I don't know. So I just wanted to say that it's not just all bliss and instant connection. And, you just say, oh, take me here and I'll take me there. It's like, if I'm not paying attention, my dog will get me lost all the time.
So I'm gonna first of all, I want to get some comments from folks, but I do want to tell you, I appreciate, you can't even know how much I appreciate you speaking up. I think it's important to speak up, and I realized that as you were talking, we had a bunch of guide dog enthusiasts on here, because as much as I like to say I understand that it's a balanced decision, clearly I have drunk the dog Kool-Aid after about a year of having my left arm pulled off and not understanding how to do this and falling off a stage once. So a lot of us understand that it's a lot of work, but some of the things you're dealing with, I have not had to deal with dog distractions and those kinds of things. So you're right. And I'm going to return real quick to say my son, Nijat, who's blind, he He might be tip-tapping behind me like 15 feet, but he wants no dog. He says it wouldn't be good for his professional lifestyle, his 30-year-old being a lawyer lifestyle. He likes the cane just fine. Even when he sees all the waitresses who are attracted to Onyx, even then he's not gonna get a guy at this point. So Jim, thank you. Comments from folks about what Jim has said, because I think it's really important from anyone.
We got Viviana.
Viviana.
Hi, I would like to say I've had a couple of dogs from schools, just for background information. I am an owner trainer, and I have trained my last 5 guide dogs. And in regards to what Jim is saying, I think that having a guide dog is a lifestyle.
I agree with
change.
that. Yep.
And I like to call it the guide dog lifestyle. It's like, if you're not prepared to say, hey, I can come in this restaurant, this is a guide dog, and you can't tell me no. If you're not prepared to say, don't touch my dog because he's working, or get your hands off my dog, or quit grabbing at my dog, or I can ride in this Uber, or, you know, pick your poison. If you can't handle having dog hair on your clothes, if just many things, but it's a ton of, it's like having a small child. You know, you might be wanting to read a book calmly and your dog is bugging you because it wants to play, especially these days.
Yep.
But I do think it is a completely different mindset and a completely different lifestyle than having a cane. When I'm out there with my cane, I'm just like chill, you know, yeah, whatever. I can come in this restaurant and take this Uber and nobody's going to give me a hassle and nobody's going to tell me I can't come in there. They might try and grab me more and they might try and grab my cane more, but you have to put on your assertiveness hat and wear it proudly day in and day out, and it is and can be very draining.
It can.
So if you're not prepared for that.
I agree with that. I don't find it draining, but it can be. You're absolutely right. I appreciate the point very much. I do agree that it's a total lifestyle choice but for us, for me, for those of us who enjoy it, maybe not like what Jim's going through right now, because he's hearing a lot of us talking about the nirvana of the whole thing, because it isn't. You know, it is a lifestyle change. Let's say I want to go to a club and listen to a band. I got to think, okay, is this the type of band that's going to be too loud? I don't want to imperil my dog's ears because she doesn't have a choice in the matter. So that choice is mine. Her welfare is my choice. Do I want to go if I have to only use my cane? Or is this a venue that, yeah, Onyx is okay in that venue? Those are the decisions you have to make. You have to deal with the fact that society will sometimes really give you a lot of attention just because you have a dog. And then there are times when people will blow you off even more because you have a dog. So it's almost like being blind. How do we manage the characteristic of blindness? There's an extra little element to manage, and that's the characteristic of having a dog. Okay, we're going to do lightning round because I told people we'd be done by 6. We won't. We're going to take an extra few minutes. Who else?
Lizzie, real quick.
Lizzie, quickly.
Yeah, I'm a puppy raiser for Guiding Eyes, but I'm also legally blind and going to college next year. And so I've been thinking a lot, like, if I want to transition from a cane to a guide dog. And I know in the beginning you were talking about routes and how it's important to have a mixture of routes. And in college, it would really be a lot of the same class routes and dining hall and clubs. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on like a guide dog in college, especially having quite a bit of residual vision.
I'm going to have the schools or anyone else want to respond. I would just say, I don't want people to get the wrong impression, because I did, about the routes. When they talk about specific fixed routes, usually they're talking about that you have to be able to do, at least to demonstrate to the guide dog schools that this is what you can do. And these are the needs you're going to have, these fixed routes. Once you get a guide dog, it's just like a cane. I go everywhere I want to go. I travel across the country, planes, trains, automobiles, Ubers, Lyfts, under homeless bridges, wherever I need to go with my dog. There are some route routes that I don't have to think much about anymore because she's just going to go. I can listen to the ball game and not worry about it for 20 minutes. Okay, comments about the college lifestyle and the guide dog lifestyle from any of our callers.
Yeah, this is Jake.
This is Melissa.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Melissa.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I interview a ton of high school kids that are preparing to go to college. And to me, there's two views on this. We certainly serve a lot of high school kids that are going to be entering their freshman year to college, in the summer before. And, at that point, if I interview you as a high school kid, I just want to see that you have solid cane skills, you're an independent, confident travel and could take that on. But there's pros and cons to it. That's two huge things you're taking on. You're going into a whole brand new school, maybe a huge university with a very challenging layout, sprawling paths, and you're going to learn how to use a brand new mobility tool. And granted, it's not to say a lot of people don't do it very successfully, but I think sometimes it's not a bad choice to go to college for a year, learn your campus, get to know people, get to know your classes, know where your resources are, and then maybe go to get a guide dog that summer between your freshman and sophomore year. But I will say, I think we probably serve a lot of kids that, are going into their freshman year that summer before. They want that new college life and they want that new shiny guide dog too. So, and you're going to have support services in place at your university. So you're going to have to learn those new routes, all your classes with that dog.
Being a sort of an old white, typical red-blooded American boy, I always, since I've had my dog, I've thought many times, boy, I wish I'd have had this dog when I was in college. I'd have met a lot more girls. I guarantee it. Jake, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Melissa said, what I would suggest is if you wanted to have a guide dog before you started college, what some people can do is if you have access to your college's campus now, meaning maybe you're just moving across town or something, and you could go there and kind of start to develop some routes, to develop some orientation around the campus and getting comfortable with it, then you'd probably have you'd be pretty well set up. It'd be kind of an ideal situation to have a guide dog. The other thing you want to think about is there's the social aspect, right? You're leaving home for the first time, potentially. You're living in a dorm or an apartment, right? You're trying to maybe teach yourself how to cook. You're trying to study. Your study habits are going to change. Your class schedules are going to be different. So all that is something I would recommend taking into account. And then also, it takes several months to apply to a guide dog school. I mean, Guide Dogs for the Blind, for example, our wait time, although it has increased a little bit, is around 6 to 8 months. So it's not like, oh, it's April, I'm gonna apply for a guide dog and get it by August and go off to college. It does take a little bit longer than that. So you want to think about your timelines and how long it's going to take to apply and go through the admissions path and that sort of thing.
Great. Rachel,
you can unmute.
Rachel, you can unmute yourself. We're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to talk real quickly about some things folks can do to make sure our dogs are well and happy during this COVID crisis. Rachel? Go ahead on, Rach. No, Rach?
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, hon.
Oh, okay. I had a question because there's a girl at my college who wants to get a guide dog, and she doesn't really have good mobility skills, and she keeps asking me. So I don't really know what to tell her at this point. I've told her like what we're talking about right now, but I don't want her to get herself into a situation that she can't get out of.
Well, first of all, the schools are going to work closely with when she does the research, and they're not going to let her have a dog. I mean, I know they make mistakes. I'm sure we all do. I'm sure they've accepted students. They go, ooh, why did we do that? What the hell were we thinking? But I think they have a pretty good process. The other thing to do is tell people, I always tell people, and I know you're a travel instructor, but I always tell people, if you really want to travel, get into an immersion program like the Colorado Center for the Blind, where you're doing 9 months of everything. Then you'll be able to make all the life choice decisions you want, including a dog. Marianne, I think you were next.
Marianne.
I was just going to say, as somebody who went to college with a guide dog, I was able to get my first dog while I was in high school, so I did have a year of learning with my dog before college. But the main thing about talking about routes and everything is more about, can you travel successfully, and do you have a plan to go to a bunch of places successfully? Yes, you'll go to classrooms and you'll go to, but you're not going to go to the same class every single day. You're not going to, your routes will vary from day to day. The places you go, yes, you're going to go to the dorm and the dining hall. Those should be everyday activities, but the other things in your life in college will be different. So your routes will vary enough to make a dog happy, but you'll also have, you'll have enough going on that as a college student, you'll have enough going on that you won't have to worry about the routes. Just make sure you know some beforehand. Make sure that your life isn't somebody who just stays at home and does nothing until you get a dog.
Yeah, you can't do that. Great. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right, Marianne. I appreciate that. Good perspective there. I will tell you one of my biggest fears, and I've heard this from other blind people, is once you get a guide dog, you won't explore anymore because you won't have a cane to hit stuff and whatever. And I found two things that are true for me. I explore even more. I have a confidence level. I also think the best cane travelers make the best guide dog users because you have those orientation, mapping, willing to explore skills. And the cane gave me that, and the dog lets me take it to hyperdrive, in my view. A phone number, Kev, who is it?
We got 0170.
0170. Then we're going to do one more after 0170. And then I'd like Melissa and maybe a couple other people to give us a little bit about how we can keep our dogs doing good during this crazy time. Did we get that?
970-393-0170. You there?
You're on the air.
All right. Then we'll go to Kaylin.
Oh, good. Hi, Kaylin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have a question for Fidelco.
Uh-huh.
Okay. My vision acuity is 2200 in my left eye and then 2400 in my right eye. Is that enough for a Fidelco dog?
I am not sure about the actual qualifications for legally blind. So if your eye doctor declares you legally blind, I'm not sure. So then you would qualify.
Awesome.
And I think that's the requirement for all the schools. I don't know any school that says, you have to be totally blind or some other functionally blind or whatever, but you can check with all the schools. Actually, I know Fidelco and all these schools have worked with a lot of what we sometimes call high partials, high partials. And Jessica is what I call, high partial, or at least medium partial, who the hell knows. But she uses a guide dog so effectively. And a lot of our partially sighted, low vision brothers and sisters, they use it a little different, just like they use a cane different than the totally blind, or the totally blind use them slightly different than the low visions, the vision impaireds. Okay, who else do we have? That's everybody. Now, I know that Melissa Smith has some ideas about, and I bet Ellie does, and maybe some others. We're going to take about 10 or 15 minutes, if you will. Anybody that needs to leave, feel free. But we're going to talk about tricks and tips to keep the dogs happy and healthy during COVID-19. Melissa?
Hello. So I wrote an article for all of our graduates at Guiding Eyes just on enrichment. There's a lot of things you can do, short of getting out and going for a walk with your dog every day. And obviously that is probably the best, most therapeutic thing you can do for you and your dog. But everyone has varied limitations right now. So, if you find yourself trapped in the house more often, we're looking at like mentally engaging games. Either you can play with your dog or your dog can go do on their own. And I would say, obviously obedience is another good thing, but get creative with it. Think outside the box, change up your routine, use some different high value treats or toys if you use something motivational other than praise. Hide and go seek in the house or in the backyard, in your apartment. One of my favorite games, and it really reinforces the come command or the recall. So put your dog in a stay or have a family member hold your dog and then go hide and call your dog to you. And when they find you, you either have their favorite toy, a treat, or exuberant praise. Most dogs love this game and will play it all day. So it's a great form of mental stimulation, hunting, and physical exercise running around the house trying to find you. My other favorite thing is the stuffed Kong. So this is really great mental engagement. You can take an entire meal if you get one of the extra large Kongs. And if you soak their kibble and make it a little mushy, pack as much as you can into a giant Kong and freeze it. You could even mix in a little yogurt or peanut butter or pumpkin to make it extra exciting and then freeze it. I have a German Shepherd that's voracious, and it'll take him almost 45 minutes to clean out a frozen Kong if I give that to him for breakfast or dinner. And after that, obviously German Shepherd, he'd love to still go for a 2 or 3 mile walk, but for him, it takes the edge off and he'll go settle. It was a nice mental workout for him to do. And so it just helps him settle better throughout the day. And I do that with all my puppies. If I'm raising puppies, most of their meals are in the form of a frozen Kong or some kind of puzzle toy to engage their brain. So those are just a couple of ideas I'll share, and I'll let somebody else
thank you for that.
chime in.
I didn't thank you for both of those. Those are ones that I don't do. So I've already learned. So thank you so much. I'm going to do both of them. I love that idea.
Yeah.
My girl will play catch all day, and I work the catch run stuff into almost all of our obedience as a reward. So if she does certain things, okay, we'll catch. And of course, we even make that where I'll act like I'm going through security. And I'll throw that ball behind me or a toy behind me. She has to stay until I call her to come calmly to me at the security standard, which is a chair and a counter. So we make all kinds of games. Other comments about? Thank you, Melissa, for that. I appreciate your article too, by the way. Other comments about keeping these dogs well during this COVID-19?
Yeah, one thing that can be helpful is using, this is Laura from Fidelco, games, besides what Melissa has said, games that can use their nose. So laying a kibble trail in the grass for them to go and find their food so that they can sniff it out can make them mentally tired, which is really nice. You can also do even more than a Kong. We use Kongs. I just filled 20 Kongs for the dogs in my house today. But you can also, if you don't have a Kong, you can use like a solo cup, fill it with ice and their food, and you can actually put a string in it, and you can tie it to their crate or hang it outside or something like that. So you can even increase the challenge. Once you've frozen it in the solo cup, you just run it underwater, pop it out, and hang it from a tree or whatever, and gives your dog something to do a little bit more mentally stimulating.
Nice. All right. Any comments before we wrap up? Any other comments about what people do or ideas from our trainers about what they do to keep the dog engaged? I'm very fortunate here because I can get to parks and trails. I mean, I do live in Colorado. So I put on a mask, by the way, when I go out now. We definitely use a mask. I put on Facebook last week that I was just going to put a pillowcase over my head because my eyes were only there for cosmetic purposes anyway. But a fellow guide dog user sent me a note saying, yes, but you'll have to cut ear holes because we still do need to hear. At any rate, comments about this whole COVID-19, our dogs performing and puzzled and anything? Okay. Well, I don't think we have anything else. Fidelco, can you give your contact information so if there's people on the call that want to reach out to Fidelco, could you do that?
Absolutely. Our website is www.fidelco.org. That's FIDELCO. And our phone number is 860-243-5200.
And you'll talk to Tara, or as I call her, Terror, and she will get right back to you. She's a wonderful person. Let's see. Jake, go ahead.
Okay, Guide Dogs for the Blind. We can be reached directly at 800-295-4050. If you want to speak to admissions, press number 4 at the phone tree. Website, guidedogs, that's plural, .com. You can also send us an email, information@guidedogs.com.
And because we are a small community, I would just say my ex-wife and the mother of my great daughter is an alum and just got a dog from you guys about a month ago from Oregon. So, and she loves it.
Great.
Loves it. Melissa, can you do the
you can reach us at guidingeyes.org, or you can give us a call at 1-800-942-0149.
That's wonderful. And then I want to get Ellie, please, because she's got a lot always to share and help. Contact info for Ellie Carlson. Is she there?
Goodness.
Okay, go ahead.
So word of mouth, yes. My business name is Canines and Canes. As I mentioned, I'm a freelance independent contract guide dog mobility instructor and orientation mobility instructor. Best way to reach me is just my simple cell phone, 303-818-8440. I do actually now have a professional email, which is K9sandcanes, all spelled out all lowercase, at gmail.com.
K9sandcanes@gmail.com. And I have her on speed dial. So if you need to reach actually I have all these people pretty much on speed dial. Thank you all very much. Please remember that tomorrow we've got the happy hour Zoom call with the special recipe and the mocktails and the cocktails. And Jerry Leary and I will teach you how to fill a bowl. And we have all kinds of stuff next week. Thank you to all of you. I've enjoyed it, and I hope I have put together a good team of presenters. And everybody, please, please, please be safe. Take care of one another during this COVID-19. Just don't do it too close. And I would say good night and forward, always forward.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Guys,
Thanks,
good
everybody.
job again.
Thank you.
Take your dog out to park and howl at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, I got you. Oh, I was going to ask about that. Okay, 8 o'clock.
Park time and howling at 8 o'clock.
All right, we're with you.